What's up, guys? It's Doodoo Poker here, back for another video. Today we're going to be talking about the button versus big blind, single raise pot, check, bet line as the button, okay? Theory does some really interesting things, and I'm going to show you a hand and how we can use MDA to outperform the solver. So, we raise up, we're on the button, we raise up 2.5x, big blind calls. Let's say the board is 9 of spades, 6 of clubs, 5 of diamonds, okay? So, big blind decides to check, slight donking spot, which is interesting for a big blind, but that's not what this video is about. So let's say we have a hand like ace 4, okay? Let's say we have ace 4. Now, you can bet or you can check. We decide to check, okay? This is the check, bet line. Now the turn is a queen of hearts, okay? Now, the big blind checks, okay? Now, theory, we know from theory, let's look at theory. Do you think population is over-probing or under-probing in this spot? Because remember, population almost never plays like GTO. Well, let's look at the data. We know from the data that GTO is between 30 and 40% depending on sizing. Now, the weaker the reg, the more they probe. Even good regs are probing on the high side, right? So we know they over-probe, okay? So they over-probe on the turn. So when they check and we bet, let's say we bet 75% pot, okay? Let's say we have ace 4. We decide to bet here. Let's look at the data for check, check, fold. Do you think they overfold or underfold once they check twice? Here's the data. They're overfolding by 5 to 10%, depending on sizing, okay? So we bet 75, so around 70. They're overfolding 5 to 10%. Okay, so we know there's an overfold on the turn, and there's also an overprobe on the turn. Okay, so we have ace 4, remember. So he decides to call, okay? Now the river is a queen of spades. Now, if you're the button here, you check back flop, you bet 75 on the turn, and big blind checks to you. If we're the button, we get a jamming range for almost 7x pot with some of our range, okay? Now, no one does this. No one does this, okay? But if you look at the solver, some of our range wants to be all in for almost 7x pot. Another part of our range wants to bet 3x pot. And a huge part of our range wants to bet 1.5x pot. Okay, so do you think players who check call turn, I'm talking about big blind here, and then check river, do you think they overfold, underfold, or play MDF versus these sizings? Well, let's say we had ace 4, okay? Let's say we have ace 4, and we know we want to put 9x, 6x, 5x, any non-queen hand, so non-trips, in a 0 EV spot. Do you think they overfold or underfold? Okay, so we bet 150. Overbet 150% pot. Now, when we look at the solver, we see 9x is 0 EV, 6x, 5x, right? But all queen x is calling, of course, right? If we wanted to put the queen x in a 0 EV spot, what do? We jam. We jam all in. Now, all these become 0 EV, right? So we have two different targets. The 150 is dedicated to the 6x, the 5x, the 9x. The jam is dedicated to the non-boats, non-queen x boats, or queen x non-boats, I should say. Okay, so let's go to MDA. Let's go back. Let's go back to button, okay? So we know, let's say we use the 150 sizing, okay? Let's look at MDA for this. This is the regs, check, check, call. Now in this data, it's 50. I bet 75, so it's slightly different, but it gives you an idea, okay? So how do we interpret this data? Okay, well, you need to know what is the alpha. The alpha is the folding frequency, okay? So let's say I bet 150, right? So we have 150 here. We know they fold to 150. The sample's good, over 1,000. We know they fold 68% of the time. How often should they be folding in GTO land? Well, what you do is you go, it's risk divided by risk plus reward, okay? So we're risking 150. The reward is 250. So they're supposed to fold 60% of the time, but we know they fold 68, so there's an overfold. Let's say we wanted to go 280, which is close to 3x pot, right? Now, not great samples because no one does this, right? Population does not know this spot well enough to start doing 3x pots on the river. But let's say we wanted to go 280. Now, 280 divided by 380 is 73.7%. But they're folding 88. So you want to over bluff this spot with 3x pot, with 1.5x pot. And if it goes on the same trend with almost 7x pot. So you want to turn your ace 4. You always want to bluff it. You don't want to check it because there's a huge overfold. Huge discrepancies in MDA and MDF. And remember, minimum defense frequency is 1 minus alpha. So the minimum defense frequency, since we know 150, alpha is 60, what's 1 minus 60? 40%. So the MDF would be 40% here, okay? So you want to take all your mixed hands and you want to put them in the bet 150 or the bet 300 line, or sometimes jamming, okay? So we want to over bluff this spot. This is important. So we over bluff this spot. If we do get called, now we switch to value, okay? And the lower the 1-1 soft flop, the more we bluff. All right, so I thought this was a cool hand that illustrates when theory and MDA can combine to outperform what the solver is showing. All right, guys. Thanks for checking out the video, and I'll see you in the next one.